Because the solution-focused approach is so much about language and the way that we talk to our clients, it also means that it's very much about the way we view our clients. Because the way you view someone is going to have a significant impact on the way that you talk to them. And the place I learned that lesson, probably the most profound place I learned that lesson, it wasn't from a professor, it wasn't from a mentor or another colleague or at a conference or at a workshop or any of that. It was from a person that I met at a church. And it was many, many years ago, at the very, very beginning of my career. Someone asked me to attend a grief group at a church. This local church, they facilitate a group for people who have lost a loved one, and they asked me if I would come and sit in on this group just because they knew what I did by profession, just wanted me to watch for whatever reason. And I was available, so I said, sure, I'll go and I'll sit in on the group. And I will never forget, I walked away with one of the most profound lessons because this one gentleman shared a story at this group. And basically he said that he and his wife, years prior, had lost his teenage son. And he said that one day his teenage son was going to go sleep over a friend's house. And he comes downstairs to go jump in a car to go to his friend's house. And the father says to the son, don't forget the Blockbuster movie, you have to return it. Those of you old enough to remember, we used to rent Blockbuster movies, and if you kept it too long, they would give you a fine per day. The dad didn't want that fine to happen, so he told the son to run upstairs and grab the movie that he had rented, so on his way to the sleepover, he could drop the movie off. And so the son kind of gruffs a little bit, runs upstairs, grabs the Blockbuster movie, and then runs out the front door, gets in a friend's car, and they start heading to the sleepover, and they were hit by a Mack truck and died instantly. The father says he heard the crash, and he said, I instantly knew my life would never be the same. He runs down the road, discovers that it's his son in an accident, ambulance and hospitals, all kinds of things, and of course his son had passed away. So the next day, he and his wife were sitting in the house and hadn't slept the night before because of all of the things that had gone on. And he said people were coming to the house, dropping off flowers and bringing them food. And eventually he was sitting on a couch and his wife was laid across his lap. I will never forget this. His wife was laid across his lap and had fallen asleep just from exhaustion, and they both just fell asleep. And he said he woke up and discovered his wife was still laying across him asleep. And people had brought all kinds of things. And one of the things that someone had brought was a pamphlet about grief. So he's sitting on this couch, wife across him, and he said, I didn't want to move too much and wake my wife up. And right where I could reach it was this pamphlet about grief. So he opens the pamphlet and he starts reading. And one of the things he reads is 93% of people who lose a child, 93% of people, married people who lose a child, end up in divorce. And he turned to his wife, he woke her up, and he said, honey, people actually make it through this. He said, no matter what happens, let's make sure we're in that 7%. And I will never forget sitting and listening to that story and thinking to myself, how on earth did this person read that statistic? 93% of people who lose a child end up in divorce. How did he hear that statistic as good news? It blew me away. I ran up to him when this was over and I said, first of all, I'm a lecturer, and would you mind if I share this story? And he gave me permission to do so. And I said, how did you do that? And what do you think the impact of that was? And he said, once I knew that 7% of people made it through, that it made me live my life as one of the 7%. It made me talk to my wife as we were going to be in the 7%. It made her talk to me as if we were going to be in the 7%. And we lived this life to ensure we were in the 7%. And I realized that in order to do the type of work that we do in this profession, sometimes we have to see the 7%. Sometimes we have to see what other people don't see. Sometimes we have to see beyond the problem, beyond the diagnosis, beyond the symptom, beyond the pattern, and see the person and who they are and what they're capable of, and talk to them from that framework. Now, the questions of solution-focused brief therapy and the techniques of solution-focused brief therapy are very, very important. But none of it matters if you can't see beauty and eloquence and hope and change possibilities in your client, because it doesn't sound like you're talking to the right part of them. So it's so important when you use this approach that you train your brain to see the 7%. It's so important that you train your brain to see the presence of hope, no matter how much it tries to hide from it. Because once you do, that's going to guide the way you talk. And then the fluency of the solution-focused questions falls right in line much more. So I decided to share this story because I hope it touches you and impacts you in the same way it touches me. Because it's been years, well over a decade, and I still have not forgotten that, and I hope you won't forget it either. And I also never want you to forget that you are one question away from making a difference in someone's life. You just have to make sure you see that 7%. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like it, share it, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear the way this message impacted you, and I'll see you in the next video.